The O'Shea report also, I think, confirms what many activists report the experiences, mainly of women, centre. I think at times the O'Shea report welcome about the PBP bill, because we need to take politics out of our abortion law. The review is part of our abortion law. Any law that is in operation that is about providing the best services would from time to time review that law and ensure that it is warned by the comments made by Leo Varadkar and some other politicians who have claimed to be uncomfortable with changes to indeed, for too long in this country, women have been subjected to medical care of clergy. And one of the things I think that we saw 5 years ago around the repeal campaign was a reckoning not just with the misogyny that was structured into the Irish state. And it was, I don't think, any coincidence that many of those kind of cases that particularly define that decade of the 1980s, of Joanne Hayes and the Kerry Babies case. I'm thinking of sorry, my mind's gone blank there. I'm thinking of there was Joanne Hayes, there was Anne Lovett, Eileen Flynn, misogyny of the Irish state. So I think it's time that we moved beyond that. I think we need our current campaigning. I don't think in the many months in which we were knocking on doors, I don't think I ever encountered one person who said to me, I'm voting yes. Exit polls, one by RT and the other by the Irish Times, that showed that the vast majority of people, the reason behind their fertility over their own life. And we need a law that reflects that reflects our trust and the autonomy that women need to have. So we need to listen to them, we need to listen to service providers, and we need to design.
For-profit councillor in the Ballyfermot area, and Hazel is well known for her campaigning on these issues. She would have been one of the typical by way of fighting on the question of facilities and shelters for victims of coercion and domestic violence, as Peter referred to.
It's really good to be hearing the discussion from all the different peoples across the sector that have all the different viewpoints. But I think what it's clear is that we won the battle for choice of abortion, but in reality that I will be coming across working with people coming through our clinics, or whether it's friends, and women talking to them through going around our area, is the difficulty that they're finding actually access to travel outside of their area, as Peter has touched on there. And one of the issues I think that Alba had brought up that's really important is around removing the what you're doing is passing on that fear and that refusal onto those who are trying to access services, and having those conversations around, what we need to realise is when you're dealing with people who are fearful within a pregnancy, it's a very lonely space to be in, and with the treatment to say that they have the ability to know what they can do within their own lives. I mean, I'm a mother of 3 children. I know at this stage whether I have the ability to provide for another child or to go ahead with a pregnancy, and I should be given that right to be able to discuss that with my GP. So I think having that space for women to be able to come in and, as I said, speak to their local GP, because with the ability around the conscious piece or the fear piece, is they're moving stranger to then explain your life experiences to then justify having that access. So there's a whole lot around it that needs to be really taken serious, and I would urge others to give them that support within their choices in life. And I'll finish on that then.
Thanks very much, Hazel. So there's a lot there, and I'll take questions.
Stephen Donnelly had the same energy as Simon Harris, or brought the same enthusiasm and zeal. Why do you think he isn't? And can I ask Breed, have you heard from the government about the 1-year timed amendment? What are the wrong? Obviously there's some unease at Cabinet, and we've heard that. We know that there are ministers like Simon Coveney who pushed for the 3-day wait originally. Why do you think Leo Varadkar made those comments? Do you think they were electorally motivated, or did you think it was to appease the Cabinet? Thanks.
So Peter, you go first.
I think in short it's but as a proclaimed advocate for women's health and women's access to health, I think he really does need to be.
Was so energised was not because he had his Weetabix, but because he felt the pressure from below. There was thousands and thousands of women on the street. The campaign had huge momentum behind it, and he really movement to put the pressure on the government to respond to the needs of women as per the evidence from Mario O'Shea's review. Because I know they're going to try and kick for touch for this tomorrow. They haven't contacted me, Jennifer. They haven't said anything. I don't know where they're going to things, and I honestly believe they're kicking for touch until this Dáil is finished and a new Dáil comes in, and then it'll be their responsibility. So it's evident to me that the movement has to greatest difficulty. If you have a good job and you have money and you live in Dublin and you've plenty of access, then, you know, and repeal worked. There's less and less women travelling, and most of us can access the services, but there's a whole cohort out there that can't. And it's incredible that the English doctors are saying, it's that they have to say, I thought you sorted this out, why did you come here? You know, that says it all really. So I think the movement really has to get behind not just this bill, but the idea that the government must act. This bill will come and go tomorrow. It won't be gone off the agenda. We'll keep pressurising. As was said to me on the way over here, many women after 12 weeks change their minds because they could become homeless, which is a big feature in this country at the moment. Their mental health might not be the best. There's all sorts of reasons why the 12-week limit is a barrier. And I know the National Women's Councils and other bodies are really pushing for it. So yeah, just briefly to say I haven't heard from the government, and you want to talk to Alva there.
Well, I think, Jennifer, you were asking coming elections, and my blunt answer is yes, I do. And one of the things that I have been very conscious of myself about abortion, what was happening, and repeal, and seemed to take pleasure and to be pleased that we had actually made, because it did lead me certainly to think that there would be movement on the 3-year reform. I noticed that in my own life and what I was being invited to speak at and contribute to. For example, I'm being very direct with you here, and elements in government, perhaps particularly Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, are much more conservative than their actual electorate, and which was demonstrated very plainly, by the way, in the result of both referendums. And I think that they need to, this spurious discomfort and reluctance, and no reason is really given for these things. They need to stop that, and they need to, as Breed says, smell the coffee, and start moving forward and understanding that in fact an electorate will trust you out there who don't like it tough. But that is what we're going for, that's what we stand for, because it leaves all of us thinking, what on earth does this government actually stand for? They need not think that that's over. They need not think that that's over in this country. We will get out there and we will do it, and we will be starting tomorrow. We will do it, and we will be starting tomorrow.
Yes, please, Debbie Smith. I was just wondering, you know, currently 11 hospitals provide this abortion care out of 19. Is there any room for conscientious objection?
It shouldn't be allowed, and it should be up to the HSE to appoint people who are trained and willing to provide, to hold my breath. But I think it is an issue that when we see conscientious objection being used, that we also have reports of false references being given to women where they're being pushed onto rogue clinics instead of onto somebody who will provide the abortion care that's needed.
Have a right to conscientious object, and you can't force people to do something that they have an objection to doing. However, as Breed said, it's nurses as well. When I was travelling around the country, for example, in one hospital in particular, when a consultant was doing it will take time. However, it's been 5 years now, so really they need to get on with it, and they've known about this problem for a long time. So the senior management in the HSE legislation has provided for, and if they don't provide those people in those positions, well then they're not really doing their job correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a question? Hour and a half. Things might move faster, but at 6 o'clock we're having a pro-choice rally outside the Dáil. And just to be clear, it's not Breed Smith's rally. Care for abortion, who makes that choice, is left behind in the very remote parts of rural Ireland. Poor women being discriminated against. If we stand for equality, then that's what it must mean. So tomorrow night's really important. So at 6 o'clock at the Dáil, it's not going to be a very long to re-kickstart what was an amazing movement that made the government smell the coffee. We need it now to make the government make the changes that are required. And thanks for the question.
In terms of delivering on review?
Well, and I need the public's terribly hopeful. But I suspect Nasser Hurricane, who's now rogue from the Green Party, will vote on this issue. And I think that that's a terrible shame, because they did win the hearts and minds by getting 12 TDs into. But will they go against the government? You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow.